Why do agricultural stories connect with so many?
So many young farmers now trying to do the best they can, originating video clips from the cab or showing their families with what they do. And I will tell you, some of these folks are very good at it. And of course, many of them want to develop a large following, and some indeed do so. But they have a great opportunity to show all of the work that goes into producing a crop. And when you have a controversial issue, such as we have right now with the use of crop protection chemicals, where you have the MAHA side of the administration pushing to say, wait a minute, we need to limit these tools. And you have the agriculture side saying, these are very important to us. They've been approved in efficacy and safety. And these tools allow our crops to be produced in abundance. And taking away those crop protection tools can hurt us dramatically. And farmers, there are some farmers I know who are doing just that, so superbly telling the story. And many of those are farm women who have their plate full already with various marketing responsibilities, helping buy crop inputs, shouldering, one portion of the family responsibilities. It's being done very well by some farm families. And I guess it makes me optimistic that their story will get through. We have a strawberry farm not far from us. And this young lady has been posting all spring about the work that goes into producing strawberries. And then she apprised us of how soon the berries would be ready and how we could sign up to go pick there. And obviously it helps them, but it helps us understand about all of the work that goes into the production of our food, John.
What are some of the biggest challenges facing farmers today?
The costs of production. And farmers have been told for many years you need to be the lowest cost producer. With your inputs, acquiring your inputs, whatever you need in terms of equipment, you have to look at that from a crucial standpoint. But keeping those costs so low when commodity prices are so low, when you look at where the prices have been in the past and where they are now, and the inability to cover those rising costs. Now, the cost of production have eased back just a little bit from a year ago. But of course, the prices for commodities aren't what they were a year ago. Interest rates come into play as well. We went through, of course, that during the terrible agriculture depression of the 80s when we had the prime rate spiking up. What was it? North of 20%, up around 22%, something like that. It had devastating effect. Many farms went out of business. We will lose some farms this year. There's no doubt about it. Some of that will be natural retirement. Some of that will be older farmers saying it's time to get out. I don't want to be fighting this battle anymore. Some will say it's just right now to hand it off to a generation behind them. Some will find a young farmer that they identify. I had a guy come up to me at a show last year. Actually, it was 2 years ago. I was in Nebraska at an old tractor show. A gentleman came up to me and he sat down and he identified himself as a farmer from Minnesota. And I think he told me he farmed about 5,000 acres. He had no sons coming behind him, no daughters. And he had picked this young man who came up and sat down behind us. At the age of 22, he had identified him, having watched him for years in the community, watched him at FFA, and how he applied himself. And he said, this is the young man that I'm going to mentor, and I'm going to bring in and allow him to build equity and to take over my farm someday. I turned around to the young man. I said, man, you just won the lottery. He said, yes, sir, I think so too. I'm scared to death. But you do see some of that. And I love to see it when that happens. You got to remember how many of our farmers are older now. I think the average age of the U.S. farmer is 56. It's close to it. It's not coming down very fast. So this is going to be a massive transition in agriculture ownership and agriculture management. And some of those farms will pass into the hands of non-farmers, as is the case. Some commodity traders own farmland because it's provided to be a good investment for them. If you look at farmland over the long haul, most all of the land realtors will point this out, that it climbs basically with the Dow Jones and the NASDAQ, but without all of the peaks and the troughs. And it's not a bad investment to have as a part of a portfolio, that's for sure.
What advice would you give to an agricultural journalist starting today?
That's a tough one, John, because broadcasting as such is nowhere near what it was back in the day. Radio stations are being powered down. AM stations are being taken off the air in some instances. The land that has the tower out there is far more valuable. FM radio may be facing some challenges in the future as we increasingly stream, but there's still going to be a place for that communicator, that young person who gets some experience, perhaps in FFA, or in my case, the Soil and Water Speaking Contest, with the ability to fine-tune those skills, to communicate, to share a story, to grasp a story quickly, to be a good listener, grasp whatever that story is, and then share it, and share it with your own insight, your own commentary, to bring a little bit of a different focus. I guess that's one thing we did. I think we did at WGN. We didn't just read prices, but quite frankly, Orion and I would talk about someone who had just been on the phone with us, someone perhaps down at the pits, somebody on working at a terminal elevator on the Mississippi River. We would bring in some of this commentary. There were certain people who called us we could count on to drop a little information to us. I always tried to take into consideration what their position might be in the marketplace. And still, coming back to that young person, I think one very important thing is to find somebody to mentor you, to get on somebody's radar screen. Not unlike, I guess, what I did with Orion at a very young age, but there were other people along my career path, an agricultural economist, another broadcaster, a cattleman of the Plains States. There were people who, in some way, shape, or form, maybe took me under the wing a little bit and said, hey, why don't you consider doing this? Or they boosted me, gave me more information, made it possible for me to serve on a committee. Harold Heinold is a name that some in the commodity industry from days of old will remember. Harold had the Heinold commodity markets all across the country. The country hog buying stations had about 40 of them. Well, he made it possible for me to be on the board for a short period of time of the Mid-America Commodity Exchange. You remember they traded the 1,000 bushel contracts. So I served, I think it was a 3-year term at the Mid-Am, which I believe was in the insurance service building back in those days. So people like that who stepped up and got you involved in some way, those are the ones you want to try to figure out how to get on their radar screen. And I think it's by developing a work ethic, being yourself, but showing an interest, for goodness sake. And a lot of young people have to learn that, I think, to really find somebody to mentor them. It's a huge step in your career if you can find somebody to give you that lift.